Good morning. And thank you, Jason, for the beautiful prelude. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Door County. I welcome all of you who are here in person, as well as those who are watching online. My name is Carrie Link, and I will be the service leader for this morning. I've been a member here for 21 plus years, and am so very pleased that I made the decision to join this welcoming place. And each week, there may be someone else for whom our congregation is a lifeline. Maybe they need the tolerance and acceptance offered in liberal religion. Maybe they seek a community to support and encourage their soul. Here at UUFDC, we hope to always be ready to welcome the visitor into our midst and give them shelter. As we gather together, we let our light shine out into the world, promoting peace, tolerance, and justice. Our faith is not interested in saving your soul. We're here to help you unfold the awesome soul you already have. So, again, welcome. Please silence your cell phones, any other noisemakers that you might have, so that we can enjoy the service. It is our practice to personally welcome any visitors or anyone who has not been here for a while to stand and introduce themselves, tell us where you're from, what brought you here this morning, and anything else you'd like to say. Are there any visitors here? Yes.
I don't know if we're visitors, been here before, and some of you know us, but for those of you that don't, or can't remember our names, I'm Dave Winter, and this is my wife, Renee.
Welcome back, I should say. Anyone else? Yes.
I'm Karen Horsch, coming in from St. Paul, Minnesota, and I've been coming here off and on for many years, but since I moved, I haven't had a chance to come back as often as I'd like, but I'm visiting here with family Terry Good, so they're the ones who brought me here today.
Yeah. Welcome back too. Okay, if anyone, oh, I'm sorry.
My name is Colleen, Marks, and I'm from Depew, Wisconsin, so not too far away. I've never been to a Unitarian University. I love all churches, really, and I love to go to many different churches and meet people and listen to your ideas and learn, and I love that you welcome everybody, because that's what ultimately, that's what Jesus would want, is to welcome everybody and to love everyone, right? And that's really his number one community. So I am very happy to be here. So thank you very much.
Thank you and welcome. And if you would like to know any more about Unitarian Universalism, we can certainly bend your ear about it. And and there's plenty of printed information in the foyer. So we also have a website, uufdc.org. There are a few announcements on the back of the order of service related to UUFDC, but if anyone has an announcement that they'd like to make, Terry, our perpetual microphone carrier, will bring it to you.
Excuse me. Good morning, Bruce Nelson. We have the UUFDC is involved in the Adopt a Highway program, cleaning our section of the ditches along the highway north of Ellison Bay. That's tomorrow at 9 o'clock, and we meet at this year we're going to meet at the Kick Ash Coffee Shop. together our plans, and we need some more volunteers. So if you have some time tomorrow, we start at 9 and usually done by 11 o'clock, and we enjoy your help. Thank you.
Thank you, Bruce.
Thank you. Hi, Vicki Ash here. Not sure which way to stand. How about this? Two quick things. I tore apart my herb garden yesterday, and so there's a bunch of fresh herbs out on the ledge out there and bags to put them in. Please help yourself. Rosemary, sage, and thyme. No parsley, sorry. It died already. The second thing is at the bottom on the back page is about the art display that was put up on Thursday. We had such a good time putting that up. And it's one of those kind of displays that there should be something for everybody in there because there's 30 different artists whose prints are hanging there. And Karen and the woman who did the printing, Christine Style, will be here to tell you more on a future Sunday.
Hi, Judy Brudd. It's apple time. Mike and I have apples in our car right outside for anybody who needs them. It takes 8 to 9 apples to make an apple pie. They're mostly Cortland's, which are wonderful for baking or applesauce or fresh eating. And Mike has one request. If you are coming to the talk back, if you could come get your apples before you sit down for the talk back, then he won't be quite so cold standing out there by the back of the car. And so enjoy the apples. And if we run out, I think we can bring some more next week. But we bring them here for those who maybe haven't been able to come to our place to pick. So
Thank you.
I guess I kind of like this public speaking stuff. Anyways, I'd like to give a shout out to Carrie Link here for all the time and effort she spent in the care of Cynthia Johnson. So just amazing what you've done, Carrie, and we all thank you for that.
Oh, thank you very much.
This is a follow-up on Vicki and Judy's announcements. I have a number of butternut squash in my car that I'm going to bring in after the service if you're interested.
Well, this is not about apples or zucchini or butternut, but the sun is shining. And I just wanted to let everybody know that for the last 3 months, we have been able to sell power back to the grid. And our bills have been just about a little around the $20 plus change that we have to pay for the fees of maintaining electrical connectivity to our solar panels. So it was very exciting.
Yeah. We will now open this morning's service with these words to light the chalice. We light this chalice to find inner peace, love for each other, and faith in ourselves. Also, to be welcoming to whomever we meet and kind to all living creatures. So gather around this light of hope as we share this time together. Our speaker this morning is the Reverend Joan Shields, who really needs very little introduction as she is a frequent speaker here, for which we're very grateful. She is an excellent speaker as well as a good storyteller, has an amazing sense of humor, and her extensive background in all things religious and non-religious helps her messages ring true. So thank you, Joan. Please stand as you are able in body or spirit for hymn number 292, and then remain standing for the unison affirmation. We gather together to seek knowledge and wisdom, to explore freely the vast reaches of mind and spirit, to celebrate within the caring community those truths, ancient and modern, which give meaning and direction to our lives. This is a time in our service when we have the opportunity to share a particular joy we have had or to share a sadness we have experienced. Please remember that our service is live, and so if you're sharing something about someone and you want to mention their name, please make sure you have their permission, and Terry will bring the mic to you.
On Wednesday, my daughter Molly is going to have laparoscopic abdominal surgery. She's not concerned much at all, but please think of me.
We will.
It's always a joy when we see the arrival of our snowbirds, and always a little bit of sadness when they leave us. And I know that Nancy and Jay Dickinson are leaving this next week. They've always
Oh.
been great contributors when they're here. So we wish you a safe journey and await your return. And I'm not sure about Boyd's when they're leaving. 2 more weeks. All right. So we'll get you next week then. So, all right. Okay.
Yes, we'll be sorry to see you go, but happy when you come back.
I don't know if this is, it's not a joy. 2 weeks ago, I crashed my car into a tree on Little Sister Road. I'm fine, sort of. I mean, a little bruised and torn, but the car is not. It hit a big tree. And I don't know if you understand the irony of the whole situation. I have now planted 500 trees on the golf course, and I hit a tree. I mean, of all the ridiculous things. Anyway, all's well, except that anybody I've called for rides, you've all been very nice and friendly and helpful. But I didn't understand how difficult it is to live up here without a car.
I'm sorry about your car, but we're glad you're okay.
Hi, I think I said something about this last week, but this is about my kid. So I really need you to help me out with my concern. Right now, there are 3 bills making their way through our state government that directly target trans youth. One is taking away parents' right to get the medical care that they need to save their lives. And 2 of the bills are about sports participation. So please, if you can email or call your people and let them know that these bills are very much discriminating against our kids, I would certainly appreciate it.
We know that our financial contributions to this congregation come from sacrifice and hard work. We are so grateful for this and commit ourselves to ensure the funds we gather collectively do a greater good for ourselves and our world than they could have done alone. May there be an offering to sustain and grow the life and mission of this congregation. May we give in hope and in love. After these words by Barbara Stevens, we will have 1 minute of silence. Let this be a place of warm and gentle silence, the silence that soothes and comforts the wounded, the silence that yields insights into heart and soul, the silence that calms, the silence that listens, the silence that speaks, the silence that renews. Let this be a place of warm and gentle silence.
Good morning. I have to tell you that a good friend of mine who's a very confirmed atheist called me this morning and he said, you know, Joan, the worst thing about being an atheist is there's no one to thank on a morning like this. I'm willing to thank any God there is that would give us a beautiful morning in this beautiful place. The reading this morning is from Margaret Wheatley from a book called Turning to One Another. She tells this story. I forgot my glasses. I can sort of see it, more or less. A young Black South African woman taught some of my friends and me a profound lesson about listening. She was sitting in a circle of women from many nations, and each woman had the chance to tell a story from her life. When her turn came, she began quietly to tell a story of true horror, of how she had found her grandparents slaughtered in their village. Many of the women were Westerners, and in the presence of such pain, they instinctively wanted to do something. They wanted to fix, they wanted to make it better. Anything to remove the pain of this tragedy from such a precious young life. The young woman felt their compassion, but she also felt them closing in. She put her hands up as if to push back their desire to help, and she said, I don't need you to fix me. I just need you to listen to me. There is a very good chance that every one of you encounters someone every day who is suffering. It could be a neighbor, could be a friend, could be a child, could be your spouse. But it's someone who's hurting or confused and they need to talk about it. You probably want to help, but you don't know how exactly. You want to say the right thing, but you're not really sure what the right thing is. So this morning, I'm not about storytelling. I'm about teaching. I'm teaching you the skill that fortunately I was taught in seminary, how to listen. And I wouldn't be taking your time here this morning if I didn't consider this the most important thing I ever learned in 12 years of seminary. A lot of it was interesting. Some of it wasn't. But this was the most helpful thing I've ever learned. You know, people suffer from all kinds of problems, from illnesses and chronic medical conditions, of course, but they also suffer from loneliness and frustration and sadness and confusion and stress. Even aside from the extreme tragedies of losing a loved one or getting a terrifying diagnosis or being betrayed by a loved one, people suffer from professional disappointments, from financial setbacks, or just the constant running down of their spirits by the hectic pace of our everyday life, particularly if you pay attention to the news. Now, it's easy to suggest counseling, but you know, ordinary people have been helping each other out since long before there were psychologists or psychiatrists or counselors. We were there for each other. There are cultures I have encountered where the concept of going to a stranger to share your problems is unheard of. You have to sit with kin, and kin meaning someone who cares for you and who knows you and that you trust. We can be that to each other. The healing of our spiritual and our psychological wounds may lie in recognizing and reclaiming that capacity that we all have to care for and heal each other. And I am a big believer that the primary tool for doing this is listening. Now, listening is not just remaining silent while the other person talks. It's much, much more than that. It requires us to be present, and that takes practice. But you don't have to do anything else. You don't have to advise or coach or be wise. You just have to sit there and listen with your heart. And if you can do that, you create moments where real healing can take place. Whatever life throws at us, if we can tell our story and share our feelings with another person who really hears it, we find it easier to deal with our own circumstances and to solve our own problems. All solutions ultimately come from ourselves. And if you think listening is simple, I assure you it's not. Just like math or cooking or carpentry, listening is a skill. And it takes a lot of practice to be good at listening. I myself am just a beginner. As with any skill, there are different times to use different tools. And I cannot give you all the tools necessary to be a great listener in one short talk. But I can teach you how to use one tool, reflective listening. Now, reflective listening is a familiar term to some people. Raise your hand if you've been taught. Yes, I thought so. It has a goal, and that's to listen in such a way that the person knows they have been heard and are able to hear the solution come from their own mouth. So here are the rules. First, and very important, is that you must make yourself have unconditional positive regard for this person. We all know that animals, especially horses and dogs, can sense our emotions. Well, people can too. And if you sit down believing that someone is wrong or a mess or stupid, they will sense that, and they will not be able to speak openly. Your first task is to open your heart, remove all of your prejudgments, remove anything that you may be thinking about that concerns you or your own life in that moment, and look at this person with unconditional positive regard. You must prepare yourself to sit in silence and accept everything they have to say without judgment or interpretation. That's not your job. Second, you must remind yourself that this is going to be a cross-cultural exchange. Now, some of us have training in speaking to people from other cultures, say Africa or Asia, and we have learned that people who don't have our American mindset often have very different mindsets and different worldviews than ours. But I'll tell you, I've learned that almost every exchange is a cross-cultural exchange. I assure you that your granddaughter has a very different worldview than you do. And so does your spouse in many ways. Raise your hand if you've learned that. Oh, yes. So you've opened your heart and you've shut off your prejudgments and you're prepared to listen to the other person and not to anything that may be going on in your own head. Keep an open body gesture. You lean forward and you say something like, "What's bothering you?" And you let the person talk. When you speak, which should be seldom, you should only paraphrase what you hear from them. You can either confirm a fact or reflect a feeling, nothing more. Confirming a fact might be something like, "So the person you trained got the promotion ahead of you." Reflecting feelings might be a remark like, you sound as if you're really upset about what your son did. And when you speak, again, very seldom, show that you are listening by beginning with this remark, something like this. I hear you saying that the situation has gotten out of hand, whatever it is. If I understand correctly, you're feeling whatever you heard. Don't be afraid of getting it wrong. They will correct you. And when you get it right, they will say yes and go on talking. That is your clue you're doing it right. Agree with their feelings. Don't question. Accept the facts that are told to you. You can say, it's clear you were surprised when this happened. Or, so he turned to the door and walked out. Or, you don't know what to do. Or you just confirm the facts you heard, or you reflect feelings, nothing more. And now we come to the most challenging part of this practice. It's time to talk about bad listening. It's time to name the roadblocks to good listening. This part is so important. Well, I put all of it in a little insert in your bulletin. I refer to that very often. So I'm not sure if you'll feel you need it, but I needed to give it to you. When I first saw this list, I thought I was the worst listener in the whole world. But it was this list that helped me understand the difference between good listening and bad listening. Now, there are certainly certain deadly comments you must avoid, and I'm going to go through them with you. What are the roadblocks to good listening? 1, ordering, directing, or commanding. Things like, oh, don't say that. You've got to face up to reality. No. Warning or threatening. You'd better stop treating him better or he's going to leave you. You're asking for trouble if you keep doing that. 3, this is so hard. Giving advice, making suggestions, providing solutions. Oh, this is so tempting. And so often when people come to us, they say, I need some advice. Don't be fooled. There might be a time for advice giving, but it's long after you've done some good listening. You don't say, what I would do. Ever said that? It's so hard not to. Why don't you? Have you tried? All of these things are demeaning. The person is not going to learn a lesson from you or for your experience. They're only going to learn it from their own experience. Number 4, persuading with logic, arguing, lecturing. This assumes that people have an applied logic or reasoning on their own. It's so patronizing to say, obviously, you can't handle this. It's a good thing you came to me. You say things like, the facts are, well, yes, but, or let's reason this through. You know, I knew somebody who said, let's get a yellow pad and write down the pros and cons of what you could do. And you don't use cliches like, oh, all kids say things like that to their parents. You're making a mountain out of a molehill. The door will close on that person's thought process. These do not encourage good communication. They shut it down. You can't moralize or tell them their duty. You know, you really should, or, you know, it's your duty to. No judging, no criticizing, no disagreeing, and no blaming. It's your fault. You're being selfish. You're wrong. Not good listening. This can be very challenging. Sometimes you will hear things that will disappoint you or offend you, but you cannot react to them. I had a teacher who was a counselor and one of the best listeners I ever knew. But even she had a hard time remaining in that calm repose of a good listener when she was listening to a young man talk about his formative experiences growing up on a farm. And she heard herself saying to him in a measured, reflective tone, "So you did this with a goat." Now, this one will really surprise you, this next one, because we think we're being supportive when we do this. Agreeing, approving, or praising. I think you're absolutely right. That's what I would do. You're a good person. It's still a judgment. You're making a judgment. A good listener does not judge. Not good, not bad. A good listener listens. Shaming, ridiculing, name calling. Oh, that's stupid. You really should be ashamed of yourself. How could you do such a thing? I don't know about you, but I hear my mom. When I hear these phrases, interpreting, analyzing, oh, this is so tempting for us educated types. We're so good. We're so smart. We've read so much. When we're old, we've experienced so much. You know what your real problem is? You know, this probably comes from your mother's anger when you were a kid. Oh, you don't really mean that. No interpreting. You are not an expert on this person's life. You don't know how to interpret this situation. And the worst possible thing that you can say is, I know exactly how you feel. No, you don't. And even if you have been through the exact same thing at some point in your life, I assure you that you don't know how they feel. You don't know how they are experiencing in a way because they are a different person from you. And right now, it's not about you. One of my friends who was having a hard time recovering from a traumatic surgery told me that when she tried to tell people her story of a difficult recovery, they often interrupted her to tell her that they once had something just like that happen to them after a surgery. And when they did, her pain became a story about them. And when they did that, her pain became a story about something besides her, which is what she needed to get out. And eventually she just stopped talking about it. It was too lonely. When we interrupt what someone is saying to let them know what we think or what we believe, we move the focus of attention from them to us. If anyone has ever listened to you effectively, you know how this feels. It feels really bad when someone takes your story away from you, and it feels really good when someone allows you to tell their story in their way. No reassuring, no sympathizing, no consoling. Oh, it's not all that bad. You'll think about this in a year and laugh. I'm sure things are going to work out all right. They don't feel that way in the moment. They may get to the point that they'll be ready for that. But when the pain is active and present and needs to be expelled, this is not what to say. Questioning, probing. Oh, we so want to be helpful. You know, why do you feel this way? What makes you do that? What about? No questions. I struggled so with this in class. I mean, we had to do practice sessions, and we're so accustomed to asking questions. In ordinary conversation, we think it shows we're listening and that we're interested and we want to know more. That's the norm, the cultural norm we live with. When you're listening to someone in pain, no questions. This is very, very hard. Let them take the narrative wherever they want to go with it. Don't direct the information down a line of questioning that you think would be interesting or helpful. Where this happened or the exact nature of the illness, for example, may not be pertinent to the person who's telling you their story. And it distracts them from saying what's on their heart. Let the person tell the story and then they want to tell it and include the details that they want to include. Withdrawing, distracting, changing the subject. No, we've all done it. We've all had it done to us. You don't say, oh, that reminds me of the time. Of course, I'm tempted to say, oh, I read about that. You think you've got problems. Look on the bright side. Bah. Don't try to change their feelings. Their feelings are the route to finding a solution. And I must add one more roadblock to this list of things that you don't do. Don't be afraid of silence. If there is silence, wait. Sit quietly and wait. Just last weekend, I was with my 8-year-old granddaughter. She'd been playing up in her room with her best friend, who she adores. And the friend came out of the house because she was going home. So I went in the house to see my granddaughter, and I found her in her room just weeping so hard. And she's not the kind of child who cries or is super sensitive. So I knew this was serious. And I said, honey, what happened? And she, through her tears, she said, I don't know how to talk about it. And I was quiet and I said, all right, you could just talk if you want. Again, silence. I put my arms around her and I said, I love you, honey. And I'm sorry that you feel bad. And it came out. Oh, you can't believe what she said to me. It was so hurt me bad. I mean, and the whole thing came out. And I just listened. And I listened until she had stopped crying. And then there was something she wanted to show me on her iPad. And that was the end of that. I used to respond to someone crying by reaching for a tissue. You know, with adults, especially with women who have makeup, we want to get a tissue for them. Until I realized that passing a person a tissue is just another way to shut them down. It's another way to take them out of their own experience of sadness and grief. Now, if I listen, I just let them cry. If they want a tissue, they'll get it when they're ready. When they've cried all they need to cry, I'll be there waiting. Have you been guilty of doing and saying any of these things? I see some. They aren't all bad. Each one has its place. We all say these things, and sometimes they are appropriate, but they do not represent good listening skills. And that's what I'm talking about today. People have asked me, and I've wondered, why is listening so healing? I don't know. But it has been my experience that a loving silence has far more power to heal and to connect than the most well-intentioned words. When a caring friend heard and believed my story, it gave me the strength to believe in myself enough to find a way out of my problem. I know that all I can really offer another person is unconditional, positive regard and the ability to hear their story. It has the power to heal. Now, Carrie has a closing reading to my message, and I'm going to invite her to come up right now and give that to you.
Thank you, Joan. When we honestly ask ourselves which person in our lives means the most to us, we often find that it is those who, instead of giving much advice, solutions, or cures, have chosen rather to share our pain and touch our wounds with a gentle and tender hand. The friend who can be silent with us in a moment of despair or confusion, who can stay with us in an hour of grief and bereavement, who can tolerate not knowing, not curing, not healing, and face us with the reality of our powerlessness. This is a friend who cares. Please rise in body or spirit for the singing of hymn 112. I'll get the number right this time. We extinguish this flame, but not its meaning and mission in our hearts. Our time together has come to an end. Go in peace, be of service to one another, and may you move through the world in love for all your days. I forgot to mention that there will be a talk back, and there is coffee and goodies from Cindy Nelson in the gathering room. So, but we will have talk back after about 15 minutes of coffee and conversation, and we'll meet right over here. Thank you.